The road that led to the old house was nearly forgotten, swallowed by weeds and shadows. It stood at the edge of the town like a scar that refused to fade. For years, children whispered about it, daring each other to touch the iron gate, while adults spoke of it only in hushed voices, as if the walls themselves could overhear. I had always been curious, perhaps too curious. The house called to me, not with words, but with a silence that felt heavy, alive, almost waiting. The night I decided to enter, the air was unnaturally still. No wind moved the trees, no animals stirred in the brush. The moonlight fell in pale ribbons through broken branches, painting the house in a sickly silver glow. Its windows looked like hollow eyes, black and endless. I pushed the gate open. The metal groaned like something waking from sleep. The garden beyond was choked with dead vines that curled like skeletal fingers, and the path was cracked with weeds sprouting through. Every step I took seemed louder than it should have, echoing against the house as though it were listening. The front door was already ajar. That unsettled me more than if it had been locked, for it suggested that something, or someone, had left it that way. Inside, the air was stale and damp, thick with the smell of mold and rotting wood. The wallpaper peeled like old skin, revealing faded plaster beneath. My flashlight beam cut across a grand staircase, its railings broken in places, and a chandelier that hung crookedly, dust dripping from it like cobwebs. As I moved deeper, the house seemed to shift. Floorboards moaned beneath my weight, and in distant rooms I thought I heard faint sounds, a chair scraping, a door closing, soft footsteps. Each time I paused to listen, the silence returned deeper than before. I told myself it was just the settling of the house, but my heart knew better. In the parlor, I found a cracked mirror above the fireplace. Its glass was clouded, warped, but enough to reflect my shape. Only it wasn't quite my shape. My reflection stood still even after I moved. Its face seemed darker, eyes sunken. When I lifted my hand, it was slow to follow, delayed, as though it were reluctant. I stepped back quickly, and the reflection smiled. The sound of laughter echoed through the house. It was faint, childlike, and it came from the hallway behind me. I forced myself to follow it. The hall was narrow, lined with doors. Some hung open, others closed, all leading into rooms filled with dust, covered furniture, torn curtains, broken lamps. In one room, a rocking chair moved slowly though there was no wind. In another, dolls sat in a row on a shelf, their glass eyes all fixed on me. At the end of the hall, I found the nursery. The wallpaper here was patterned with faded stars and moons, peeling in strips that hung like loose skin. A small bed stood against the wall, its mattress collapsed, sheets yellow with age, and in the corner a toy chest sat half open. I could hear breathing. Not mine. I approached the chest, every instinct screaming to turn back. As I leaned closer, the breathing stopped. I lifted the lid. Empty. Then, suddenly, the lid slammed shut with a violence that made me stumble back. The laughter returned, louder, surrounding me, though the room was empty. I fled the nursery, my footsteps hammering the floorboards, and rushed down the stairs. But the house had changed. The hallway below was longer than before, stretching into darkness, doors multiplying endlessly along the walls. No matter how far I ran, the front door never appeared. Whispers began to rise from the walls. They came in fragments, voices overlapping. Some pleaded, others warned, and a few laughed in cruel delight. My flashlight flickered, and in its failing light I saw shapes moving. Pale figures, their limbs too long, their heads lolling at strange angles, their eyes glowing faintly like dying embers. I turned a corner and stopped. There, at the far end of the hall, stood my reflection. Not in glass this time, but in flesh. It was me, yet not me. Its skin pale and cracked like old paint, its smile stretched too wide. It raised a hand, beckoning. I ran the other way, blindly, and burst into the parlor again. The mirror loomed above the fireplace, and this time the reflection in it was not mine at all. It was the cracked, faced version, grinning, reaching out. And then the glass bulged, rippled like water, and a pale hand pressed through, followed by another. I stumbled backward as the figure began to climb out of the mirror, its body emerging with a wet, sucking sound. The whispers rose to screams. The house shook, the floor groaned, and the chandelier above shivered, glass raining down like shards of ice. I turned and ran, this time not thinking, only moving. The halls twisted, but somehow, impossibly, I found the front door. It stood wide open, black night yawning beyond it. I threw myself outside, lungs burning, legs trembling. The air was cool and sharp against my skin, real and alive in a way the house never was. I didn't stop running until the gate slammed shut behind me with a clang that echoed through the night. When I finally turned back, the house stood silent, its windows black, but in one of them, high on the second floor, I saw a figure watching me, pale, smiling. I left that night and swore never to return. Yet even now, when I close my eyes, I hear the laughter, and sometimes, in mirrors, my reflection lags just a second behind. The house is waiting, and it knows me now.